I offer my respectful obeisance unto him. Van will Shri Rup Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the missions to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya. Give me shelter under his lotus feet. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Shri Rup Goswami, along with his elder brother Sanatan Goswami, as well as Raghunath Das and Raghunath Bhatt, Gopal Bhatt, and Shri Jeev Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisance to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityanandan, along with Advait Acharya, Gadadhar Srivas, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates Shri Lalita and Vishak. Oh my dear Krishna, oh my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold and who is the queen of Vrindavan. You are the daughter of King Vrishbhan, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisance unto all the Vaishnavas, devotee of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desired trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen souls. I offer my obeisance to Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityanand, Shri Advait, Gadadhar, Srivas, and all others in the line of the devotions. Bhagavad Gita is also known as Gita Upanishad. It is the essence of Vedic knowledge and one of the most important Upanishad in Vedic literature. Of course, there are many commentaries in English on the Bhagavad Gita, and one may question the necessity for another one. This present edition can be explained in the following way. Recently, an American lady asked me to recommend an English translation of Bhagavad Gita. Of course, in America, there are so many editions of Bhagavad Gita available in English, but as far as I have seen not only in America but also in India, none of them can be strictly said to be authoritative, because in almost every one of them the commentator has expressed his own opinions without touching the spirit of Bhagavad Gita as it is. The spirit of Bhagavad Gita is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita itself. It is just like this: if we want to take a particular medicine, then we have to follow the directions written on the label. We cannot take the medicine according to our own whim or the directions of our friend. It must be taken according to the directions on the label or the directions given by a physician. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita should be taken or accepted as it is directed by the speaker himself. The speaker of Bhagavad Gita is Lord Shri Krishna. He is mentioned on every page of Bhagavad Gita as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagwan. Of course, the word Bhagwan sometimes refers to any powerful person or any powerful demigod, and certainly here Bhagwan designates Lord Shri Krishna as a great personality, but at the same time we should know that Lord Shri Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, as is confirmed by all great acharyas, spiritual masters like Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbark Swami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and many other authorities of Vedic knowledge in India. The Lord Himself also establishes Himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Bhagavad Gita, and He is accepted as such in the Brahm Samhita and all the Purans, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Bhagavad Purans. Krishnastu Bhagavanam Savyam. Therefore, we should take Bhagavad Gita as it is directed by the personality of Godhead Himself. In the 4th chapter of the Gita, the Lord says, here the Lord informs Arjuna that this system of yoga, the Bhagavad Gita was first spoken to the sun god, and the sun god explained it to Manu, and Manu explained it to Ikshvaku, and in that way, by disciplic succession, one speaker after another, this yoga system has been coming down, but in the course of time it has become lost. Consequently, the Lord has to speak it again, this time to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He tells Arjuna that he is relating these supreme secrets to him because Arjuna is his devotee and his friend. The purport of this is that Bhagavad Gita is a treatise which is especially meant for the devotee of the Lord. There are 3 classes of transcendentalists, namely the Janani, the Yogi, and the Bhakt, or the imperialist, the meditator, and the devotee. Here the Lord clearly tells, or the imperialist, the meditator, and the devotee. Here the Lord clearly tells Arjuna that he is making him the first receiver of a new parampara disciplic succession, because the old succession was broken. It was the Lord's wish, therefore, to establish another parampara in the same line of thought that was coming down from the sun god to others, and it was his wish that his teaching be distributed anew by Arjuna. He wanted Arjuna to become the authority in understanding the Bhagavad Gita. So, we see that Bhagavad Gita is instructed to Arjuna, especially because Arjuna was a devotee of the Lord, a direct student of Krishna, and his intimate friend. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita is best understood by a person who has qualities similar to Arjun's. That is to say, he must be a devotee in a direct relationship with the Lord. As soon as one becomes a devotee of the Lord, he also has a direct relationship with the Lord. That is a very elaborate subject matter, but briefly it can be stated that a devotee is in a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in one of five different ways. First way is one may be one may be a devotee in a passive state. Second is one may be a devotee in an active state. Third, one may be a devotee as a friend. Fourth, one may be a devotee as a parent. Last is fifth, one may be a devotee as a conjugal lover. Arjun was in a relationship with the Lord as a friend. Of course, there is a gulf of difference between this friendship and the friendship found in the material world. This is transcendental friendship, which cannot be had by everyone. Of course, everyone has a particular relationship with the Lord, and that relationship is evoked by the perfections of devotional service. But in the present status of our life, not only have we forgotten the Supreme Lord, but we have forgotten our eternal relationship with the Lord. Every living being out of the many billions and trillions of living beings has a particular relationship with the Lord eternally. That is called Sarup. By the process of devotional service, one can revive that Sarup, and that stage is called Sarup Siddhi. Perfection is one's constitutional position. So, Arjun was a devotee and he was in touch with the Supreme Lord in friendship. How Arjun accepted this Bhagavad Gita should be noted. His manner of acceptance is given in the 10th chapter. Arjun said, "You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest, all the great sages such as Narad, Asit, Deval, and Vyas confirm this truth about you, and now you yourself and declaring it to me. O Kishan, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality." After hearing Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjun accepted Krishna as Brahma, the Supreme Brahman, every living being is Brahman, but the supreme living being or the supreme personality of Godhead is the supreme Brahman. Brahman. Pramdham. Pramdham means that he is the supreme rest or abode of everything. Pavitram means that he is pure, untainted by material contaminations. Prosam means that he is the supreme enjoyer, Sasvatam, original, Divyam, transcendental, Adidevam, the supreme personality of Godhead, Ajam, the unborn, and Vibhum, the greatest. Now, one may think that because Krishna was the friend of Arjun, Arjun was telling him all this by way of flattery. But Arjun just to drive out this kind of doubt from the minds of readers of Bhagavad Gita. Substantiates these praises in the next verse when he says that Krishna is accepted as the supreme personality of Godhead not only by himself but by authorities like Narad, Asit, Deval, and Vyasadev. These are great personalities who distribute the Vedic knowledge as it is accepted by all acharyas. Therefore, Arjun tells Krishna that he accepts whatever he says to be completely perfect. I accept everything you say to be true. Arjun also says that the personality of the Lord is very difficult to understand and that he cannot be known even by the great demigods. This means that the Lord cannot even be known by personalities greater than human beings. So, how can a human being understand Lord Sri Krishna without becoming his devotee? Therefore, Bhagavad Gita should be taken up in a spirit of devotions. One should not think that he is equal to Krishna, nor should he think that Krishna is an ordinary personality or even a very great personality. Lord Shri Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. So, according to the statements of Bhagavad Gita or the statements of Arjun, the person who is trying to understand the Bhagavad Gita, we should at least theoretically accept Shri Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead, and with that submissive spirit we can understand the Bhagavad Gita. Unless and reads Bhagavad Gita in a submissive spirit, it is very difficult to understand Bhagavad Gita because it is a great mystery. Just what is the Bhagavad Gita? The purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to deliver mankind from the nescience of material existence. Every man is in difficulty in so many ways. As Arjun also was in difficulty in having to fight the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjun surrendered unto Shri Krishna, and consequently this Bhagavad Gita was spoken. Not only Arjun but every one of us is full of anxieties because of this material existence Our very existence is in the atmosphere of known existence. Actually, we are not meant to be threatened by known existence. Our existence is eternal, but somehow or other we are put into asat. Asat refers to that which does not exist. Out of so many human beings who are suffering, there are a few who are actually inquiring about their questions, about their position, as to what they are, why they are put into the awkward positions, and so on, unless one is awakened to these positions of questioning his suffering, unless he realizes that he doesn't want suffering, but rather wants to make a solutions to all suffering, then one is not to be considered a perfect human being, humanity beings. The, when this sort of inquiry is awakened is one's mind in the Brahma Sutra. This inquiry is called Brahma Jijnas. Every activity of the human being is to be considered a failure unless he inquires about the nature of the absolute. Therefore, those who begin to question why they are suffering or where they came from and where they shall go after death, and proper students for understanding Bhagavad Gita. The sincere student should also have a firm respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a student was Arjun. Lord Krishna descends specifically to reestablish the real purpose of life. Real purpose of life. When man forgets that purpose, even then, out of many human beings who awaken, there may be one who actually enters the spirit of understanding his positions, and for him this Bhagavad Gita is spoken. Actually, we are all swallowed by the tigress of nescience, but the Lord is very merciful upon living entities, especially human beings. To this end, he spoke the Bhagavad Gita, making his friend Arjun his student. Being an associate of Lord Krishna, Arjun was above all ignorance, but Arjun was put into ignorance on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just to question Lord Krishna about the problems of life so that the Lord could explain them for the benefit of future generations of human beings and chalk out the plan of life. Then man could act accordingly and perfect the missions of human life. The subject of the Bhagavad Gita entails the comprehension of 5 basic truths. First of all, the science of God is explained, and then the constitutional position of the living entities, Jeeves. There is Ishwar, which means the controller, and there are Jeeves, the living entities which are controlled. If a living entity says that he is not controlled but that he is free, then he is insane. The living being is controlled in every respect, at least in his conditioned life. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matter deals with the Ishwar, the supreme controller, and the Jeeves, the controlled living entities, Prakriti, material nature, and time, the duration of existence of the whole universe or the manifestation of material nature, and karma, activity, are also discussed. The cosmic manifestation is full of different activities. All living entities are engaged in different activities from Bhagavad Gita. We must learn what God is, what the living entities are, what Prakriti is, what the cosmic manifestation is, how it is controlled by time, and what the activities of the living entities are. Out of these 5 basic subject matters in Bhagavad Gita, it is established that the Supreme Godhead or Krishna or Brahman or the Supreme Controller or Paramatma. You may use whatever name you like, is the greatest of all. The living beings are in quality like the Supreme Controller. For instance, the Lord has control over the universal affairs of material nature, is not independent. She is acting under the directions of the Supreme Lord. As Lord Krishna says, this material nature is working under my direction. When we see wonderful things happening in the cosmic nature, we should know that behind these cosmic manifestations there is a controller. Nothing could be manifested without being controlled. It is childish not to consider the controller. For instance, a child may think that an automobile is quite wonderful to be able to run without a horse, or other animals' automobile is quite wonderful to be able to run without a horse, or other animals pulling it. But a sane man knows the nature of the automobile's engineering arrangement. He always knows that behind the machinery there is a man, a driver. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the driver under whose direction everything is working. Now, the Jeeves or the living entities have been accepted by the Lord, as we will note in the later chapters, as his parts or partials. A particle of gold is also gold. A drop of water from the ocean is also salty. And similarly, with the living entities being part and partial of the Supreme Controller, Ishwar or Bhagavan, Lord Shri Krishna have all the qualities of the Supreme Lord in minute quality, because we are minute Ishwar. Subordinate Ishwar, we are trying to control nature, as presently we are trying to control space or planets. And this tendency to control is there because it is in Krishna. But although we have tendency to lord it over material nature, We should know that we are not the supreme controller. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita. What is material nature? This is also explained in Gita as inferior prakriti. Inferior nature. The living entity is explained as the superior prakriti. Prakriti is always under controller. Under control. Whether inferior or superior, Prakriti is female and she is controlled by the Lord, just as the activities of a wife are controlled by the husband. Oh my goodness. Just as the activities of a wife are controlled by the husband. Prakriti is always subordinate, predominated by the Lord, who is the predominator. The living entities and material nature are both predominated, controlled by the Supreme Lord, according to the Gita. The living entities, although parts and partials of the Supreme Lord, are to be considered Prakriti. This is clearly mentioned in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. This material nature is my inferior Prakriti, but beyond this is another Prakriti, Jeev Bhutam, the living entity. Material nature itself is constituted by three qualities: the mode of goodness and the mode of patience and the mode of ignorance. Above these modes there is eternal time, and by a combination of these modes of nature and under the controller and purview of eternal time, there are activities which are called Kram. These activities which are called Krama. These activities are being carried out from time immemorial, and we are suffering or enjoying the fruits of our activities. For instance, suppose I am a businessman, have worked very hard with intelligence and have amassed a great bank balance. Then I am an enjoyer. But then, say I have lost all my money in business. Then I am a sufferer. Similarly, in every field of life, we enjoy the results of our work or we suffer the results. This is called Krama. Ishwar, the Supreme Lord, Jeev, the living entity, Prakriti, nature, Kala, and eternal time, and Karma, activity, are all explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Out of these five Lord living entities, material, nature, and time are eternal. The manifestation of Prakriti may be temporary, but it is not false. Some philosophers say that the manifestation of material nature is false. But according to the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, or according to the philosophy of the Vaishnavas, this is not so. The manifestation of the world is not accepted as false. It is accepted as real, but temporary. It is likened unto a coot which moves across the sky, or the coming of the rainy season, which nourishes grains as soon as the rainy season is over, and as soon as the good goes away. All the drops which were nourished by the rain dry up. Similarly, this material manifestations takes place at a certain interval, stays for a while and then disappears. Such are the working of Prakriti. But this cycle is working eternally, therefore Prakriti is eternal. It is not false. The Lord refers to this as eternally. Therefore, Prakriti is eternal. It is not false. The Lord refers to this as my Prakriti. This is material nature is a separated energy of the Supreme Lord. And similarly, the living entities are also the energy of the Supreme Lord. Although they are not separated but eternally related. So, the Lord, the living entity, material, nature, and time are all interrelated and are all eternal. However, the other item, crumb, is not eternal. The effects of crumb may be very old indeed. We are suffering or enjoying the results of our activities from time immemorial. But we can change the results of our crumb or our activity, and this change depends on the perfections of our knowledge. We are engaged in various activities. Undoubtedly, we do not know what sort of activities we should adopt to gain relief from the actions and reactions of all these activities, but this is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita. The position of Ishwar, the Supreme Lord, is that of supreme consciousness. The jivs or the living entities, being parts and partial of the Supreme Lord, are also conscious. Both the living entity and material nature are explained as the Prakriti, the energy of the Supreme Lord, but one of the two, the Jiv, is conscious. The other Prakriti is not conscious. That is the difference. Therefore, the Jiv Prakriti is called superior because the Jiv has consciousness which is similar to the Lord's. The Lord's is supreme consciousness. However, and one should not claim that the Jiv, the living entity, is also supremely conscious. The living being cannot be supremely conscious at any stage of his perfection, and the theory that he can be so is a misleading theory. Conscious he may be, but he is not perfectly or supremely conscious. The distinction between the Jiv and the Shwar will be explained in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The Lord is Kshetrajana, conscious as is the living being, but the living being is conscious of his particular body, whereas the Lord is conscious of all bodies because he lives in the heart of every living being. He is conscious of the psychic movements of the particular jeeves. We should not forget this. It is also explained that the Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is living in everyone's heart as Ishwar, as a controller, and that that he is giving directions for the living entity to act as desires. The living entity forgets what to do. First of all, he makes a determinations to act in a certain way, and then he is entangled in the action and reaction of his own krama way. After giving up one type of body, he enters he enters another type of body as we put on and take off clothes. As a soul thus migrates, he suffers the actions and reactions of his past activities. These activities can be changed when the living being is in the mode of goodness, in sanity, and understands what sort of activities he should adopt. If he does so, then all the actions and reactions of his past activities can be changed. Consequently, karma is not eternal. Therefore, we stated that of the five items, Ishwar, Jeev, Prakriti, time, and Kram, four are eternal, whereas Kram is not eternal.
मेरी माता ने मुझे बता दिया।
The Supreme Conscious Ishwar is similar to the living entity in this way. Both the conscious of the Lord and that of the living entity are transcendental. It is not that consciousness is generated by the association of matter. That is a mistaken idea. The theory that consciousness develops under certain circumstances of material combinations is not accepted in the Bhagavad Gita. Consciousness may be perversely reflected by the covering of material circumstances, just as light reflected through colored glass may appear to be a certain color. But the consciousness of the Lord is not materially affected. Lord Krishna says, when he descends into the material universe, his consciousness is not materially affected. If he was so affected, he would be unfit to speak or transcendental matters as he does in the Bhagavad Gita. One cannot say anything about the transcendental world without being free from materially contaminated consciousness. So, The Lord is not materially contaminated or our consciousness at the present moment. However, is materially contaminated. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that we have to purify this materially contaminated consciousness. In pure consciousness, our actions will be devoted, dovetailed to the will of Ishwar, and that will make us happy. It is not that we have to cease all activities. Rather, our activities are to be purified, and purified activities are called bhakti. Activities in bhakti appear to be like ordinary activities, but they are not contaminated. An ignorant person may see that a devotee is acting or working like an ordinary man, but such a person with a poor fund of knowledge does not know that the activities of the devotee or of the Lord are not contaminated by impure consciousness or matter. They are transcendental to the three modes of nature. We should know, however, that at this point our consciousness is contaminated. When we are materially contaminated, we are called conditioned. False consciousness is exhibited under the impression that I am a product of material nature. This is called false ego. One who is absorbed in the thought of bodily conceptions cannot understand his situation. Bhagavad Gita was spoken to liberate one from the bodily conceptions of life, and Arjun put himself in this position in order to receive this information from the Lord. One must become free from the bodily conceptions of life. That is the preliminary activity for the transcendentalist, one who wants to become free, who wants to become liberated, must first of all learn that he is not this material body. Mukti or liberation means freedom from material consciousness. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, also the definition of liberation is given. Liberation from the contaminated consciousness of this material world and situation in pure consciousness. All the instructions of Bhagavad Gita are intended to awaken this pure consciousness, and therefore we find at the last stage of the Gita's instructions that Krishna is asking Arjun whether he is now in purified consciousness. Purified consciousness means acting in accordance with the instructions of the Lord. This is the wholesome and substance of purified consciousness. Consciousness is already there because we are part and parcel of the Lord. But for us, there is the There is the affinity of being affected by the inferior modes, but the Lord, being the supreme, is never affected. That is the difference between the supreme Lord and the small individual souls. What is this consciousness? This consciousness is I am. Then what am I? In contaminated consciousness, I am means I am the Lord of all. I survey, I am the enjoyer. The world revolves because every living being thinks that he is the Lord and Creator of the material world. Material consciousness has two physic divisions. One is that I am the creator, and the other is that I am the enjoyer. But actually, the Supreme Lord is both the creator and the enjoyer, and the living entity, being part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is neither the creator nor the enjoyer, but a co-operator. He is a created and enjoyed. For instance, a part of a machine cooperates with the whole machine. A part of the body cooperates with the whole body. The hands, legs, eyes, and so on are all parts of the body, but they are not actually the enjoyers. The stomach is the enjoyer. The legs move, the hands supply food, the teeth chew, and all parts of the body are engaged in satisfying the stomach, because the stomach is the principal factor that nourishes the body organization. Therefore, everything is given to the stomach. One nourishes the tree by watering its root, and one nourishes the body by feeding the stomach. For if the body is to be kept in a healthy stated, then the parts of the body must cooperate to feed the stomach. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the enjoyer and the creator, and we, as subordinate living beings, are meant to cooperate to satisfy Him. This cooperation will actually help us, just as food taken by the stomach will help all other parts of the body. If the fingers of the hand think that they should take the food themselves instead of giving it to the stomach, then they will be frustrated. The central figure of creation and on of enjoyment is the Supreme Lord, and the living entities are cooperators. By cooperation, they enjoy. The relation is also like that of the master and the servant. If the master is fully satisfied, then the servant is satisfied. Similarly, the Supreme Lord should be satisfied, although the tendency to become the creator and the tendency to enjoy the material world are there also in the living entities, because these tendencies are there in the Supreme Lord, who has created the manifested cosmic world. We shall find, therefore, in this Bhagavad Gita that the complete whole is comprised of the Supreme Controller and controlled living entities, the cosmic manifestations, eternal time and karma or activities, and all of these are explained in this text, all of these taken completely form the completely whole, and the complete whole is called the supreme absolute truth, the complete whole and the complete absolute truth are the complete personality of Godhead. Shri Krishna, all manifestations are due to his different energies. He is the complete whole. It is also explained in the Gita that impersonal Brahman is also subordinate to the complete supreme person. Brahman is more explicitly 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 explained in the Brahma Sutra to be like the days of the sunshine. The impersonal Brahman is the shining rays of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead. Impersonal Brahman is incomplete realization of the absolute whole, and so also is the conceptions of Paramatma. In the 15th chapter, it shall be seen that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Purushottam, is above both impersonal Brahman and the partial realizations of Paramatma. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is called the Brahm Samit begins in this way. Ishwar Brahm. In this way, Ishwar Govinda Krishna is the cause of all cause. He is the primal cause, and he is the very form of eternity, knowledge, and the bliss. Impersonal Brahman realization is the realization of his set eternity feature. Paramatma realization is the realization of Sat eternal knowledge. But realization of the personality of Godhead, Krishna, is realization of all the transcendental features, Sat, Sit and Anand, eternity, knowledge and bliss, in complete form. People with less intelligence consider the supreme truth to be impersonal, but he is a transcendental person, and this is confirmed in all Vedic literatures. As we are all individual living beings and have our individuality, the supreme absolute truth is also in the ultimate issue, a person and realization of the personality of Godhead, realization of all the transcendental features in his complete form. The complete whole is not formless. If he is formless, or if he is less than any other thing, then he cannot be the complete whole. The complete whole must have everything within our experience and beyond our experience, otherwise it cannot be complete. The complete whole personality of Godhead has immense potentials. How Krishna is acting in different potentials is